and is being broadcast on Xfinity Channel 24, RCN Channel 13, and FiOS Channel 962. With that, I turn it over to Board Chair Wesley Ireland.
Thank you, Andrea. Good evening, everyone. I thought we would start off with introductions. I am Wesley Ireland, and I am the board chair, and I live in the North End. And I'm using 2 female sign language interpreters who you will hear their voices during the meeting. However, I'm going to be using sign language throughout the meeting. Next, I will call the board members to introduce themselves. Alice, would you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Okay, hi, I'm Alice Fisher, and I have a demanding cat who expects to be fed before I settle in here. And I live in the South End, and I'm a relatively new member of this board, but by now it's not so new anymore. And I'll move it to Carl.
Did you say Carl?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Carl Richardson. I live in Brighton Center. I'm probably one of the longest standing members of this community, and I identify as a deafblind person.
Thank you, Carl.
And I'll send it back to Wesley to introduce the next person.
Sure, no problem. Charlie, you're next.
Hi, my name is Charlie Kim. I am a resident of the North End, and I am new to the advisory board as a parent of a child with disabilities. And I'll hand it off to Richard.
Okay, so I just came on. What am I supposed to do?
Hey, Richard, this is Andrea. Just introduce yourself, and if you want to share your neighborhood or your disability.
Okay, Richard Glovsky. I live in Back Bay, and I guess one of my qualifications for being on the advisory board is that I have a significant hearing loss.
All right. I would like to then call Ducia.
Thank you, Wesley. So good evening, everybody. My name is Ducia Lebowska, or Ducia for short, and I'm the vice chair, and I am in Boston. I'm living in Boston, and specifically in Mission Hill. Thank you.
Thank you, Ducia. And now I'd like to call Yardley.
I don't see Yardley. He may have hopped on but hopped off.
Okay. And then, okay. Then I would like to call Jerry to introduce themselves next.
Thanks, Wes. My name is Jerry Boyd, and I live in West Roxbury. I'm a person with a disability and mobility impairment. I have cerebral palsy specifically, and it's my honor and pleasure to be on the board.
Thank you, Jerry. Elizabeth?
Yes, my full name is Elizabeth Dean Cloward. I don't have a good visual tonight, so I will just say that I am a white woman with gray hair and glasses and hoping to have a photo for times my full face isn't in view. I am a board member. I live in Back Bay, the Copley Square area, and welcome to the people who are, I know it's not your first board meeting, but we're happy to have expanded representation and appreciate your perspective.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And I'm wondering if there is one more person that could introduce themselves, Commissioner McCosh.
Hi, everybody. It's Krista McCosh. I'm the Disability Commissioner and ADA Title II Coordinator for the City of Boston. Glad to be joining you tonight, and I will log on later to give my report. Back to you, Wes.
Hi, Wes. I just didn't want to interrupt you, but this is Zari. I just wanted to introduce myself. So this is Zari Amir Hosseini. I'm a board member, person with a physical disability, and I live in South Boston.
Thank you, Zari. And I believe Juan Carlos is here.
Yes, hello everyone. Sorry for the difficulties connecting to this room. This is Juan Carlos Ramirez Tapia. Live in Boston South End, commission member again.
All right, I believe that is everyone who is on this evening. I know that there are a few people who are absent, but that is okay because we do have quorum, so we can move forward. Did I miss anyone?
Yes, this is Paul Karen. I serve as the board secretary, and I live in Boston, Massachusetts, and serve as an advocate for mental disabilities. Thank you. And welcome to all the new members.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Sorry about that, Paul. Didn't mean to miss you. It's a little bit difficult for me to keep track of everyone with a smaller child. Okay. All right, because we do have quorum this evening, I'm going to go ahead and ask for a vote for approval of last month's meeting minutes. So would anyone make that motion to approve those minutes, and would somebody second that motion?
I make a motion to approve. This is Paul.
I make a motion to second. It's Lucia.
All in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
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 So it appears that there are no objections. Everyone has stated their approval. All right, thank you, everyone. The motion carries. Now we can move on to our presentation from Joseph Lamar from Achilles International. So the floor is yours, Joseph. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us here tonight. I'm Joe Lamar, Paralympic champion in track. I've been coaching for over 30 years, cross-country, indoor and outdoor track and field, as well as having coached numerous running clubs and actually a Paralympic World Championship team. I still play wheelchair basketball and softball right now, and I coach to give back to a sport that's literally taken me around the world. And in saying that, I'd like to introduce my boss at Achilles, who's here today, Michael Anderson, for a few words.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Michael Anderson. I'm actually joining you all from Achilles headquarters, just west of Times Square in New York City. Our organization provides athletic programming and social connection to individuals with disabilities. We are welcoming any person with any type of disability or disabling condition who wants to experience the sports of running, walking, wheelchair sports. We're welcoming of anyone experiencing a barrier. We welcome those who are U.S. veterans who have served in our nation's military, adults of all ages, and even youth with disabilities who want to get out and run, walk, and wheel. We like to think that we have a nice big tent that is welcoming of all. At our weekly workouts, which can be found all over the globe, actually twice weekly in Boston, you will find athletes with disabilities looking to get out and run or walk, maybe just get a little bit of exercise, or maybe try to qualify for the Boston Marathon. It's a really amazing group, and at our workouts, we provide experienced volunteers who serve as guides to help support those with disabilities to reach their goals, and all of our guides are highly trained through our programs. Earlier this year, as the vice president of the organization, I was asked to take the model that has been successful in New York for the last 39 years and bring it to 4 very important cities where we would hire full-time chapter leaders to help us expand our efforts. And those chapters are Chicago, Washington, D.C., Houston, and I'm happy to share Boston. So earlier this year, we hired Coach Joe Lamar as our first full-time hire in Boston. And I'm thrilled that Joe's going to be sharing more about what we're doing to expand our efforts in Boston. And you all can hear a little bit more about how you can help us as well. So thank you for having us, and I'll let you take it away, Coach Joe.
Thank you. From that, appreciate. Could we get our first slide?
Yes, sorry, Joe, that's me, and I am pulling it up right now.
No problem. Before that, though, I'll say that I am born in Boston. I was raised in Dorchester for the first few years of my life and graduated Brockton High, and I live in Fall River now. And with that, I'll start. Our mission since 1983, Achilles International, has transformed the lives of people of all ages with disabilities through athletic programs and social connection. We have walkers, runners, joggers, push room wheelchair racers, hand cyclists, triathletes, amongst our Achilles chapters. Membership is free. A survey done showed that 80% of Achilles members report an increase in their well-being and self-confidence. Over 150,000 youth, adults, and veterans served in our programs. In 2021, 500 finish lines were crossed by Achilles athletes, and that's during a COVID year. Next slide, please. There we go. Nope, back one.
Sorry, there's a lag and I accidentally hit it too far. Let me try again. Apologies.
No problem.
This is Andrea. My apologies for the technical difficulties. This has not happened before, and of course it would happen tonight. Let me try one more time.
There we go. So in this picture on the left, we have our guide, and she has a tether in her left hand. In the middle is our athlete, Anthony, who is visually impaired. All of our guides go through extensive guide training, which is done by our chapter leads. Here in Boston, it would be myself. Our athletes' needs are being met. We're making sure our athletes' needs are being met through the extensive guide training. We are a fully inclusive organization. Everyone is welcome. Even our able-bodied friends are welcome to join us. Next slide, please. Achilles is all about building a more inclusive society, one run, walk, ride at a time. Just this past Saturday, I had a mother of a 14-year-old autistic child emailing me saying that her son's guide had dropped out and canceled on them, so he didn't have a guide for the Doug Flutie 5K in Natick on Sunday. She asked me if I could go and try to find a guide. I ended up sending out an email to our guides, and within a couple of hours, I had 4 guides respond back, willing to go and jump in and help this young man to be able to race. These were not Achilles athletes. The mom isn't related in any way with Achilles, and we were able to go and get them a guide. So I think we'll be getting a future Achilles athlete out of the deal by doing the right thing. Next slide, please. There we go. In this picture, on the left is a male guide, and on the right is a visually impaired female finishing a race, all smiles. At Achilles, we know a run can change a life. We firmly believe in the transformative power and joy of achievement. The finish line is really the start line to the rest of one's life. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had an athlete compete in the Chicago Marathon. His fastest time going in was 6 hours and 40 minutes. Coaching him for the past couple of months, I thought he was going to be able to run under 6 hours, just under 6 hours, to be able to qualify for the Boston Marathon. He ended up at mile 25, he was running at 5 hours and 20-minute pace. Unfortunately, he went and turned, someone was cheering for him and screaming his name, and he turned and fell and hit his head, and he required to get some medical help on the course. He still ended up getting up, finishing the race, and he actually ran 5 hours and 40 minutes for the marathon, running over an hour faster than he had previously run, and qualifying for the Boston Marathon. He posts every single day about how he's qualified for the Boston Marathon, and I cannot stop texting, replying back with likes on his Facebook page, because again, he's accomplishing his dreams right now, and it's really heart-wrenching and warming to see and hear. Next slide, please. In this picture, this is one of our New York chapter's kids who is running with a buddy, our running buddies in guide. Our kids program is coming soon to the Boston once we find a home for it. Achilles is a leading force for change, expanding our reach and impact, strengthening domestic chapter networks, creating scholarship programs for participants in local races so that our athletes don't have to pay out of pocket, becoming educators, go-to providers for physical education programs. We have a Run to Learn virtual program being held now at the Bradley Elementary School in East Boston. Leading development of inclusive and accessible events, going and talking to meet directors, to making sure all of our athletes are welcome to go and compete, writing the standards for athlete guiding and support as well. Next slide, please. How we can help. We can help you support constituents of all ages with disabilities in your cities and towns, connecting you with our chapter network of free programming and access to workouts in a supportive, safe, and fun environment. This is truly what we are all about. Everyone being social and enjoying being active. Internationally, Achilles has 38 chapters in 17 countries. A couple of those countries are Mongolia and Australia. In the United States, we have 28 chapters in 19 states, including Washington, D.C. So this means anywhere, our athletes or volunteers were to go and travel, they would be able to go to a different state, different country. If we have a chapter there, they can sign up for their workouts and be included, all around the world and all around the country in those chapters. What you can do, help open the doors. For me, introduce me to everyone and anyone. It would be greatly appreciated to, have access and find out who's in charge at the VA hospitals, clinics, rehabilitation centers, special education and/or adaptive education in the city of Boston. I just want to get to know everybody and make sure that everybody knows about Achilles and knows about us. And helping open those doors would be fantastic. And like I said, greatly appreciated. Next slide, please. So this last slide, this is our flyer. Please feel free to post it anywhere and everywhere and let everybody know about us. You have my email address on there and where we train out of right now on Newberry Street. In closing, I would hope you all sign up to Achilles, come out, visit us, our Boston chapter, and become part of it, an amazing team. Thank you very much. I'm free if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns. If you need the information to sign up, I can help you with that as well.
Thank you so much, Joe. I really appreciate your presentation.
Thank you as well.
I wanted to ask you if you're connected with Home Base for veterans. I work at Mass General, and we have a home base program. Okay. And I was thinking that might be maybe a program that we could connect you to.
That would be great. Again, we're looking for any and all programs to go and raise the awareness to bring people out and just have them be active.
That'd be great. Okay, I'll reach out to you.
Thank you. Great. I see Jerry has had his hand up. Jerry Boyd.
Yes, yes, and Wes says I've posted something in the chat as well. Jerry, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much for your presentation. As a wheelchair user, though, and as a power wheelchair user, I'm always looking for activities and events and sports that power wheelchair users can use. Oftentimes, we've been kind of overlooked and neglected in terms of sports. So I'm curious, do your activities, do you have participants using power wheelchairs? Would you welcome power wheelchair users?
We would welcome it. Anybody and everybody. Sorry to interrupt you, but we're welcoming of everybody.
do you have now so far? Do you have participants using power wheelchairs?
Our chapter does not as of yet, but you're going to be the first, Jerry.
There you go, Jerry.
Okay, we'll see. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So this is Wes. Lucia, go ahead. You have a question or comment?
Yes, thank you, Wesley. So thank you again so much for your presentation. I have no words. I can't explain why, but I'm just in awe of your presentation. I love what you're doing, your project, your work. And I am wondering, so I have two questions. One of them is probably unrelated. It's just one of them is part of some of my interests from friends, and the other one, so I'll just start with the first question. So, do you have accommodations? I don't know, maybe Jerry touched upon this, I don't know. But do you have, so if there's somebody who is having difficulties traveling, that needs to come to your, I don't know, to your building or whatever that location is, do you provide transportation or do you provide any kind of support so people can come to you, whatever their age is, whatever their issues, are you able to provide? Can they get there, or do they make an appointment, or how do they get there? I know some people, they don't, maybe, I don't know if you're looking at public transportation or someone needs to get by car there. How do you take care of that problem? And my second question is regarding veterans, which is part of some of my interest. Do you also visit, like I know there are veterans homes or something like that. Do you visit them as well? Do you have like any activity that you're able to go to visit them, like for once a week or so, and just so they can get distracted from whatever they're going through in their lives? Thank you.
Yep. With your second question with veterans and everything, we haven't gotten out there yet. We've been wanting to have the doors opened up right now and make the connections to who to go and speak to and everything first and foremost. And then as far as transportation goes, yes, people do have to get to the workouts, on their own. But I mean, I'm sure we could find some public transportation to be in the area and everything for people to get there.
And I'll just add, with the veteran component, we've had some really great success with visiting Walter Reed Hospital in DC, as well as the VA hospital here in New York. And many of those who have come have gotten to know our coaches, our program leaders, our athletes with disabilities, and some great friendships have formed, and they start coming out to our local workouts. So Joe's going to be doing the same outreach in Boston.
Okay. This is Wes. Now Carl, I guess I see Carl has a question.
Yes, I do.
Then I think, right, then I think there's another question as well. I think Dick has a question too. Go ahead.
So yes, hi. Thank you, Joe, for your presentation. I have two quick questions. One, so I'm a middle-aged guy who's never really exercised. I don't want to necessarily light the world on fire and run a marathon, but I wouldn't mind walking for a little bit. So how do you, walk in a safe, comfortable way? So how do you work with people like that? And secondly, I see on your website that I'm looking at now, you have an adaptive cycling program in New York. Is that something you're thinking of bringing to Boston also?
Great. So yes, we will be bringing the hand cycling to Boston. We do have one hand cycle right now for adults and one for children. And then as far as how we would set you up with walking with us and everything, yeah, we'd go and pair you up with a guide who would go out walking with you during our workouts.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And you said hand cycle. What about adaptive cycles for the visually impaired who want to cycle?
Oh, yes. We do have, some of our chapters have tandem cycles and everything that our athletes could go and be paired up with a guide in a tandem cycle as well.
It's a bit of a gradual rollout right now, Carl. New York launched exactly a year ago for tandem cycling. DC is launching next month. So we're hoping that Boston's next, maybe within the next 6 months. And last thing is, everyone's an athlete that joins us, whether you're walking or running. Everyone's an athlete. So I really do hope you join us. We'd love to have you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, and Wes said that I was going to be next. Thank you, Carl. I'll make my quick question. It's really a personal message or a personal question. First of all, I would like to say that I am an avid runner, and I've been running for, I would say, seriously, I've been running for about 6 years.
Nice.
And when I started, I joined a social running club, and they were providing free food and drinks after the run. And so that was probably after like 3 to 5 miles. And so that motivated me to continue to go because of that social and food aspect. And then I realized that the benefits of running really helped me a lot. So that brought me into the sport. And I have a lot of friends and colleagues who have tried to push me to think about running the Boston Marathon. And I can see that it's possibly something that I might be able to do in the next 5 years. So I've been seriously thinking about joining Achilles to keep having that motivation to push me to achieve perhaps that goal. I do have a friend who moved to Boston from New York many years ago, and he heard of Achilles, and he was actually very active in the New York area, and I knew that we didn't have a chapter here in Boston. So this is really great new information, and I'm thrilled to hear about this activity. Also, he was actually helpful with the Boston Marathon with the hand pedals, the hand cycling, and he's provided some assistance, guidance to runners, people who are visually impaired and whatnot. I think he's been doing that for a couple of years. So I think that's a really great thing to be doing. So that's just a little bit of a story about why I kind of got into running. I love swimming, and I need to get back on the bike because it would be nice for me to be able to do a triathlon in the future. So my question then is, on your website, you seem to be very inclusive of all people with disabilities, but I don't see information specifically targeted for deaf and hard of hearing people. I mean, the Paralympics, I know that point of view, deaf and hard of hearing people are not always involved in the Paralympics. And so I'm just wondering about your approaches to making your activities accessible to deaf and hard of hearing community members.
In the Boston chapter, we actually do have one of our athletes who is deaf and hard of hearing, and she does sign. We also have another guide who does sign as well. So you're more than welcome to come out, and we'll see you Tuesday at practice. I'll be there.
So, okay, great, thank you. I'll be thinking about that, and I'm going to talk with 4 of my running buddies, and we might actually, we're actually very motivated, so we're thinking about participating in our Achilles and your activities.
Great.
And I think that would be really great to pull other people into the organization. Okay.
That's
so,
fantastic.
I see Dick had a question as well. I think, Dick, you wanted to go next?
Yep, thank you. Joe, my question has to do with Boston. Is there anything idiosyncratic about Boston and what Achilles does here that makes it different than other cities that maybe the commission should be aware of?
Right now, the biggest thing we're looking is to find ourselves a home, that isn't right on Newberry Street, that would be fully inclusive, That's the biggest obstacle for us right now. That's the only thing that would be holding us back to really going and getting our numbers up like a New York chapter.
And what have been the efforts to find the location, and how might someone on this commission help you if they had the resources to do so?
You know, Commissioner McCosh has been great. We just met Monday with the Parks Department and looking for a home and possibly going to White Stadium at Franklin Park and using that as a facility. That could be our kids program, you know, having it right there on the track, and then you have access to the park roads. It's just looking at what could really be the best fit for those who are on hand cycles and racing wheelchairs.
So do you have parameters as to what you're looking for that would summarize what would be ideal?
You know, that's a really tough question, because again, you have, you know, basically two separate groups, if you would, in which having a kids program and having adults, because they are looking at doing different distances and everything. So ideally, you know, a loop that would be quality roads of probably 6 to 8 miles would be unbelievable for our hand cycles and, you know, wheelchair athletes. But then again, you could have your regular runners able to be there as well. We want to make sure that we keep the team as close together as possible, because that's part of that interacting and socializing that's really important part of Achilles.
Joe, this is Andrea with the commission. I know we had met with Parks this week looking at outdoor spaces for track, but you'd also mentioned, you know, looking for indoor spaces for basketball, particularly somewhere with storage that could like store the hand cycles and wheelchairs. So Dick, I don't know if you are thinking of any recreation facilities you're familiar with, but I know that was something you also mentioned, right, Joe?
Yes, thank you, Andrea. We definitely are. You know, having a space for our equipment and everything is huge.
Well, I know some developers in the city, and if you could get me something, the commission could get me something, I could at least ask them if they had any options that might suit you.
You know, because looking at it, it would be, again, finding a home first and foremost, and then finding a storage unit that we could put there to have hand cycles and wheelchairs be able to be stored there and everything would be great. Thank you.
This is Andrew again. I can connect the two of you over email after this meeting.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and this is Wes speaking. I've actually put a comment. I actually wanted to comment before Jerry has a comment. I want to let you know that you might want to look at different locations or different fields that might have good benefits for people with disabilities who live in that area. So just sort of putting that out there. There's some information I put in the chat. Okay, Jerry, you want to say something?
Yeah. You know, having been involved in wheelchair soccer in the past, BCYF has been extremely helpful with that. In fact, the Power Wheelchair Soccer team in Boston, the Boston Breakers, you know, have practiced at the Tobin Community Center in Mission Hill since their inception, and in fact, a lot of their equipment, you know, is stored there. So I don't know if the commissioner could connect you with the head of BCYF to see if maybe they had some space in one of the community centers that might be useful and helpful for you as well.
Thank you.
This is Andrea. Thanks, Jerry. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Thank you.
Are there any more questions from the group for Joe? All right, I don't see any. So again, thank you so much for your presentation, Joe and Michael. I really appreciate the information that you shared, and I think this is really wonderful and exciting to know that you're going to be bringing this program to Boston. And I think that we will just sort of, you've left your email information, and we will have people contact you if they would like to be in touch for whatever reason, and we have your contact information.
Yep, and I'm looking forward to everybody signing up. Thank you all.
Second that. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
All right.
Thank you for having us. Have a great night.
Good night. Okay. Now Wes is saying, just give me one moment. I'm pulling up my notes because I'm going to give my chair's report. Okay, one moment. Okay, so I'm going to provide my chair's report. And I have something to share. So I can share the screen. Okay, I've got 7 items on my chair's report. So first item I'd like to talk about is that the Deaf Incorporated is having their 45th anniversary celebration coming up. There's a link, there'll be links that I'm putting in the chat for this event. This is a virtual gala. It's going to be held on Saturday, November 5th, and you can actually get your household ticket. There's the first link that I've put in the chat. It should be a fun night of celebrations and surprises, because we're going to have Troy Kotsur, who was the Academy Award winner in the movie Coda. He's our keynote speaker. And the second link I've shared in the chat includes a pre-registration for the bidding. There's a silent auction, so there are items there, and there's some really great items that you could get if you won your bid. So these are, this is all of this, all of the funds go to this nonprofit organization of Deaf Inc. Now, the next item I wanted to talk about is the Civic Engagement Day. I had the privilege of attending this event last Wednesday at City Hall in the Ionella Chambers with at least 4 local high schools, including English, Fenway High School, East Boston, and Henderson. And many of the students with disabilities were thrilled to see Commissioner McCosh, Mayor Michelle Wu, and several city councilors, including Erin Murphy, Ed Flynn, and Michael Flaherty. It was fully packed. It was a full packed house in the chambers. And the mayor, as well as the councilors, actually took notice of that capacity of people. It was a really memorable and inspiring event for many of the kids, because they know that they can engage in civics and politics. Also, it was really great seeing Olivia at the event, another one of our board members. The third item I want to talk about is there were 2 big articles in the Boston Globe regarding the busing issue with Boston Public Schools and disabled students. And that was one article. And the other article was about some physicians being reluctant to take care of patients with disabilities. And so these 2 topics will be discussed a little bit later during new business items tonight. The next item I'm going to share in the link. I read an article in the Harvard Business Review that was written by a woman named Bobby Cordano, The link is here now. I'm putting that in the chat. So this month is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And I want to acknowledge President Bobby Cordano. She's the president of Gallaudet University. She recently wrote that piece that was published in the Harvard Business Review. And in the article, it talked about whether or not your organization is inclusive of deaf employees. It's definitely worth a read. And it makes companies think harder about how to be inclusive of deaf employees, as well as, in my opinion, of including everyone, including deaf and other invisible disabled people, respective minority groups, etc. So I hope that City Hall employees, as well as local businesses, can take note of this unique article and ensure that their organizations are inclusive of deaf employees. Okay, so the fourth item I wanted to touch on. There's a candidate running for office at the national level, and due to a neurological condition, he has a disability. He's been using captions during an interview with a news reporter, and it sparked some interest and some controversy, I guess depending on which party line you kind of ascribe to. This is a perfect example, and also a friendly reminder about why the Disability Commission Advisory Board needs to keep pushing for the need of the captioning ordinance and also remote access at public meetings. I have two more items on my report. Now, the next item is related to 911 text feature. Now, this past Sunday, I made my first 911 text through my phone while I was on the Green Line. I was with my wife and toddler. We were on our way to an event. We saw a person in a wheelchair who seemed to be overdosing and definitely looked like they needed some medical help, or at least was necessary. So we had to get off the train because it was our stop, but on our way out to the street, we ended up seeing a transit police vehicle, and then we saw two ambulances pull up, as well as a fire truck. Now, I wasn't really clear whether the train stopped or if it had already left for the next stop. But the police department called my cell phone, and I didn't really know what to do, but I answered the call, and I enabled the captions, and I had my wife, who's hard of hearing, communicate. She communicated with the follow-up communication. And we really were hoping that this person is okay. So I look forward to having the Boston Police Department come to a future meeting, perhaps maybe in December for a presentation. The next item that I want to talk about is Halloween and the Day of the Dead. Now, since the last meeting report was about summer entering into fall, we've actually been lucky to have some great weather days, because we're currently in, I guess, what are called Indian summer days, and everyone seems to be pretty happy to be outside. Now, with Halloween coming up, well, not only is it a day for kids to trick or treat, collect candy, Halloween and the day after is also known as Day of the Dead. And that's when we reflect on those who have passed or who are gone. For example, a local deaf friend of mine lost her mother a few weeks ago. And also, another local longtime disability advocate passed away last week. Paul Spooner, as you may know him, he had muscular atrophy since birth. And you may not know that he was actually on the White House lawn when the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed in 1990. And also, I'm thinking about my grandmother, who passed away this past summer. She was 98 and a half years old. And she was deaf in one ear. So I'll probably reflect on the happy memories that I had with her, as well as some of the others who've influenced and shaped me to be the person that I am. So for example, I had a double loss in the first month when I joined this advisory board. There was a pioneer of deaf studies in our, the ASL, the deaf and ASL community, who unexpectedly passed away. And then also a hometown friend unexpectedly overdosed. So with this day, those 2 days coming up and passing us, we should all be looking forward to finishing the year on a strong note. And of course, with the upcoming holidays and cold weather, I hope you all act like true New Englanders as you wait a bit longer to turn on the heat. So thank you very much, and that is all of what I need to report in my board chair report. So I'd like to now turn us over to the next item on the agenda, and that is the advisory board member spotlight. And I would like to spotlight Richard Glowski, so Dick Glowski.
Thank you, Wes. Good to be with you all again. So when I was 18 months old, I had spinal meningitis, and that's what has largely contributed to my hearing issues. And as a result, I think in large measure of what I experienced growing up as a result of those hearing issues, I was very interested, have been very interested, and worked a lot in civil rights over the years. So the first 7 years of my career I spent with the Justice Department, and when I was in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Boston, among other things, I initiated the first affirmative civil rights case that had ever been brought by the federal government in Massachusetts. And after serving in the Justice Department, I continued to maintain my interest in civil rights issues. I became chair at one point of the Newton Human Rights Commission, where I then lived. I was chairman of the Anti-Defamation League. I was the National Civil Rights Chair of the Anti-Defamation League. Yeah, among other things, I co-founded the Latino Jewish Roundtable, and over the years I've been very active in civil rights issues. And because of my hearing issues and because of just how important I think it is generally, that's what's drawn me to the commission. There's no doubt in my mind, I'm sure no doubt in many of your minds, that disabilities are a civil rights issue. And there's too little understanding still today by the public of what those who have disabilities go through on a daily basis. I had a friend who at one point advocated, she's in a wheelchair, and she had this idea of having people she knew or others she didn't know spend a day in a wheelchair in the city and see what they found the experience was like. I actually volunteered for that, but it wound up falling through. But I just can't imagine that I really understand what that's like. Like so many things, if you don't walk in someone's shoes, it's very hard to be completely aware of what they go through. So that's a little bit about me. I'm one of the, I joke about this, the few lawyers in Boston. And, oh, who's that, Wes? That looks like a very important member of the board.
Yes,
at least your board.
She is. It's okay. Go ahead. She's at home. She's ready to watch one of her favorite shows. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
So, it's good to be here. I think I lost my train of thought there, but it's okay. It was worth losing just to have a glimpse of, I think that's your 2-year-old, Wes, is that right? Anyway.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
She's 2.
So, that's a little bit about me, and in my private practice these days, I still do a lot of civil rights work, a lot of employment-related issues in my practice, and happy to have given you that brief description of some of my life.
Okay. Will we switch to the interpreters? Just one moment, please.
Thank you. Any further questions from the board members or comments? Okay, seeing none. It seems like we're very quiet at the moment. I think you did mention that you had some grown kids, right? Adult children, Richard?
Yes, yeah, I have two daughters who live in Boston.
All right. Well, I guess we can jump into the next item on the agenda. Oh, Charlie, go ahead.
I just want to welcome Mr. Glowski. My silence is just because I'm in awe of the history that you've done. So questions is just, I wouldn't know where to start to ask questions. So I just wanted to welcome you. I know that we're both new to this, the advisory board, and I'm looking forward to collaborating with you and possibly meeting with you during the period. So.
Thank you, Charlie.
And I have to echo what Charlie just said. I greatly look forward to working with you, and I'm sure other members of the board feel similarly as well. All right.
Thanks, Wes. I hope I'll be helpful to the commission.
I'm sure you will be. I definitely look forward to your excellent insight. All right, let's move on to the next item, which is the commissioner's report.
Good evening, everybody. I wanted to let you know I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties, so I have to turn my camera off. But just wanted to say hi to everybody so you could see that I'm here, and we'll go through my slides. Okay, so I'm going to start off with some City of Boston initiatives. I think Wes did a great job in summarizing our Civic Engagement Day last week. We actually had 7 Boston Public Schools attend, the ones that Wes mentioned, and then 3 others. We also had people from Easter Seals, Work Inc., and a few people from the Institute for Community Inclusion at UMass Boston. And then we just had some people from the community. So it was great to see everybody come out and learn about the AutoMark machine. Some people registered to vote. They learned about testifying at a city council hearing, and they got to meet their neighborhood liaisons and a whole lot more. And like Wesley said, it was really impactful to see the whole city council chamber almost filled up with people who have disabilities. And I think the mayor took notice, as Wes said, and Council President Flynn and Aaron Murphy and Michael Flaherty. So it was a great day, and we always look forward to this event every year. So I was glad a few board members could make it. The next thing I wanted to mention is that October 10th was World Mental Health Day, and we want to give a shout out to Paul for always keeping this top of mind and reminding us about this day of recognition. And we wanted to let you know, Paul and the board members, that we've requested a presentation from the Boston Police Co-Responder Program. This is a program that embeds mental health professionals at all police precincts. The specialists go with BPD officers on mental health calls. And one of our staff members attends these meetings every month. So it really is the method that the police use to de-escalate mental health situations when they get calls, that they know where that is an issue, because we know a lot of times it's not criminal behavior, it's disability related. So we definitely plan to work closely with the police moving forward. And Wes, I took note of your request to bring someone from Boston Police to the board meeting for a presentation. And we will be doing that. We're in touch with the trainer of the cadets and working on a training about disability and specifically about ASL and interacting with people who are deaf. But the presentation that we're focusing on this will be about mental health and the Boston Police Co-Responder Program.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Paul. Next slide. So a few other initiatives that we're working on. As a few people mentioned, this is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. So one thing that we do every year is a joint program with the Mass Rehab Commission. It used to be in person, internships in City Hall, but with the pandemic, we switched to virtual. So we call it our Pathways to Employment and Public Service Program. So we bring in 15 job-ready Boston residents with disabilities, and we require them to be Boston residents because at the end of the program, we really want to encourage them to apply for city jobs. And one of the requirements to work for the city is to be a resident. And right now, if anyone's interested, the city has a ton of open jobs. And we're having, we've had job fairs, and they're continuing to happen, so stay tuned for more information on that. So this series will host 5 webinars with speakers from various city departments. The people participating can ask questions about what type of work they do, who they serve, what they like about their job, just to see if it would be something they'd be interested in applying for. So we will also have a general webinar that's open to the whole disability community. The tentative date is November 17th. And at this webinar, we will have human resources representatives from all 6 city agencies that have their own hiring process. So if you want a job at the Boston Public Health Commission, you don't apply through boston.gov Human Resources. They have their own human resources page, and that's also true for the Boston Public Schools, the Boston Housing Authority, the Boston Planning and Development Agency, and the Boston Water and Sewer Commission. So it can be pretty complex when you think about applying for a job with the city. So we want to demystify the process and help people understand how to apply if they're interested. So we'll get a lot more information out about that as the date gets closer, but we welcome anybody in the disability community to attend. And I know we've been talking about this for a few months, but we are finalizing our bicycle awareness and people with disabilities outreach campaign. This campaign will raise awareness of cyclists interacting with pedestrians who have disabilities. We have messaging on the white cane law, messaging around intersections and curb ramp awareness. We're going to be talking about where to park your bike and where not to park your bike, and a whole lot more. So the campaign will include digital billboards, MBTA ads, city kiosks, and then a lot of social media as well. So we hope you will help us spread the word once the campaign is finalized. And I want to thank the board members who participated in the photo and video components. You can look forward to seeing yourself out there very soon. And the next slide. So some upcoming events that we have. So the city's budget department is hosting a series of education and engagement workshops. These are to engage underrepresented communities in ways that they can participate in the city budget. As you know, we work for the public, and everything the city does is done with public money. So we want input from the public about ways we spend that money. We want to hear about priorities, especially from communities who don't always have a seat at the table. So they've already hosted, they will be hosting a series of workshops for the LGBTQ community, different communities who are, like I said, who are not usually present in these conversations. So they will be holding one for the disability community. It's going to be on November 10th from 3 to 4 at the Copley Library. ASL has been requested and CART is confirmed. So these sessions won't be really a listening session, or they won't provide an opportunity to give input on the budget, but they will talk you through the ways that you can get involved in raising your priorities to the budget. So we encourage everybody to attend and spread the word, and we'll get more information out to you through email so you can get it right out to all your networks. And the city will also be having a virtual session for anybody to attend who can't go to one of the in-person sessions. Oh, and here's the list of the other constituencies that will be having their own workshops. And then the other upcoming event is the Advanced Community Access Monitor Training. We did find out recently, or realized recently, that it is the same day as the November election. So we were in the process of partnering with the Cambridge Disability Commission, but they let us know recently that they will be unable to attend. So I want to throw it to the board to see if you want to reschedule, if this will be a conflict. I know that a lot of people do early voting or vote by mail, but it is still election day, and I know it's a busy day for people, so I want to throw it back to you, Wes, to discuss.
What does the board think? Any thoughts? Jerry, go ahead.
I think it's very important to try to reschedule it, to try to make it as easy as possible for those in our community to vote and not have any conflicts. I think voting's the single, one of the single most important things that we can do as involved and informed members of the board and constituents in the city. I think it's extremely important to make it as easy as possible for folks to vote and not feel conflicted on that day. So if there's any way we can reschedule it, I think it should be.
And this is Wes. Before I ask further and call you, Alice, I'm just asking, is this the potential that it would be rescheduled for before or after November 8th, the election day?
This is Andrea.
Most likely,
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say most likely after. I don't know that anyone who's involved has the capacity to do it earlier.
That's just what I was going to say.
Okay.
Most likely be after.
So it would be planned for after election day. Okay, and Elizabeth, did you have a comment? Go ahead.
Yes, thanks. Yes, this is Elizabeth Dean Power. I agree with Jerry, and in fact, I think even if for the particular people who chose to sign up for it didn't personally have a conflict, I think there are also then transportation issues for getting around, as well as perception. I think on multiple, just not only if people haven't done their voting through in other ways or another part of the day or whatever. I think that's not a date that we want to have a conflict for people on multiple levels.
And this is Wes, so it seems as if people are in agreement that we should reschedule for after election day.
This is Andrea. We will communicate that with our partners at the Cambridge Commission as well as the Mass Office on Disability. We will get, as with this date, I believe we got 2 or 3 potential dates from the MOD that they could run it, and so we will bring those back to you all over email. I don't know how many folks had signed up already. I think we mentioned last month that even if you didn't attend the first CAM training we did last year, anyone can join this advanced one, even if you didn't do the first one. So please respond to that email and let us know if you can attend so we can get as many of you all in there and meeting the Cambridge folks as possible. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Wes. I just have a few more slides to go through. Okay, so some important information to let you know about. I know that utilities have been a big part of the conversation and in the news because they're really expected to rise maybe dramatically this winter. And that's due to a variety of factors. But one thing the city can help with is electricity costs. The city runs a program called Community Choice Energy, or CCE. This program allows Boston to lock in a lower electricity rate for a longer period of time. So everybody should check their electricity bill, to see if the supplier is listed as billing for City of Boston CCE. If it is, you will automatically save 50% or more than if your supplier was someone else. If you didn't opt to change your supplier when this change happened last year, then you should be automatically enrolled in CCE. But definitely check your bill, and you can reach out to Teresa Texiera, the program manager for the city, at the number 617-635-2331. There are also other potential discounts available, as they are always through the state and directly from utility companies. So reach out to us if you have more in-depth questions, and we can direct you to the appropriate resources. And then finally, a big important announcement is that the City Hall Plaza ribbon cutting has been scheduled. It hasn't been officially announced yet, but the date is finalized. It's going to be Friday, November 18th and Saturday, November 19th. It's going to be a big, huge celebration. There'll be a speaking program, guided tours of the plaza, hot chocolate, a light show, and on Saturday they'll have family activities. So we specifically want to reach out to board members to invite you and let you know that you'll be recognized for all your contributions, because really the property management team has told me personally that the only two people they care about who attend is the mayor and the disability community. So they're really super excited to show off the access on the plaza because they know it's been a long time. So we will be in touch more as the date gets closer, but just letting you know to mark the date on your calendar and watch out for an invitation. Next slide. And then finally, just a note on upcoming elections. We mentioned the date is Tuesday, November 8th. Early voting starts October 22nd, and that's at various locations around Boston, including City Hall. Fenway Park will also be a place where you can go and vote early. The voter registration deadline is October 29th. This means you can register to vote and vote at the same time from October 22nd to the 29th. Election dates, as we mentioned, the 8th, and if you vote on election day, just a reminder that you have to go to your assigned polling place. Unlike the early voting where you can go to any place that's open in the city. So that's really convenient. If you're working in town or working in a neighborhood, you can find a local spot where you can vote. So we are also still having the accessible online electronic voting this year. You must first submit a complete vote by mail application to your local election official. You can email it, and the application must be received by 5 p.m. on November 1st. After your request is approved, the election department will email you instructions for accessing the accessible vote by mail system, along with a unique PIN that you can use to log in and information about how to return your completed ballot. So we do a lot of work to ensure that all the polling places are accessible, but we know that with winter coming and COVID cases still a concern, some people won't feel comfortable still going in person. So we're really glad that this option is in place and encourage you to spread the word about it. It is only in the city of Boston right now, but any Boston residents can make use of this program. And that is it. If anybody has any questions, please.
This is Andrea. I don't know about questions, but I did realize I forgot to mention that the ACAM, the advanced CAM training, will be virtual. So that will be hopefully make it more accessible when we put it not on election day.
And I also forgot to mention one thing. I know, Wes, you had mentioned the captions ordinance, and I wanted to let you know that we have not forgotten about it or stopped working on it. It's just a lot of logistics to push it through. So Andrea is actively working with the mayor's office to get to the next step on that. And we hope to have some more news on it very soon.
I was hopeful, Wes, that I could have announced it's being introduced sometime soon, or give you a specific date. I was hopeful I would know that date by today, but I don't know it yet. But it will be soon.
Okay, so would you expect it to be approved prior to the end of this calendar year?
So it will be introduced as soon as possible, and there will be plenty of time for it to be approved. The only reason I'm not going to make a guess about politics is because I'm not going to make a guess as to how many counselors will, vote immediately or have concerns. If it is not passed by the end of this year, it will be refiled in January. But we're here to see it through. I long ago stopped making guesses about how quickly legislatures will vote. So I don't want to promise anything.
Well, it better be quick anyways. So, just to be there.
Yeah, it seems, I don't expect a ton of opposition based on conversations I've had. It's not like we know one counselor or someone is going to throw up roadblocks. So I don't expect that it's going to be hugely delayed and controversial. So I'm hopeful that it will pass very quickly.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. Jerry, did you have your hand raised?
I did, and I just raised it again, just so you saw it again. But you called on me anyway, so thank you, Wes. And again, I wanted to thank you for spearheading the closed captioning ordinance. And I know it's been a long process, but hopefully we're near the end of the line. So that was my kind of question is where we are in the process. So if I understand correctly, it will be coming up to a vote from the city council. If it's approved, then what? Then what is the process?
Great question. So then it would be in force, and restaurants, bars, other places of public accommodations will be expected to turn on captions. We as a department will have resources, proactive educational resources about how to enable captions. Some captions are enabled on the TV, some are enabled if you're doing a streaming service, Netflix, or apparently NFL Thursday Night Football is on Paramount Plus. I don't know if a sports bar has Paramount Plus for their football needs. So we'll have resources for all of the ways.
That's Amazon Prime.
Oh, sorry.
Wes is saying.
Yes, you're right, Wes. It was an app. I knew that much. Clearly, I don't watch Thursday Night Football. But we will have captions about every app, every cable service, et cetera, to do proactive outreach. And then if there is a place that is not in compliance, constituents can report that to our office, and we will get in touch with that business to teach them how to turn on captions.
Okay, this is Wes. I did also want to add to Jerry's comment about how long or how slow the process is going to be for this ordinance at the city level. And I know that the process is quite quick, but it's faster than at the state and federal level. But I know, as we know, this ordinance can certainly benefit us, so we'll see.
This is Carl.
I see a question, yeah, Carl?
So, I don't know if some of you know, I'm on the Disability Advisory Council for the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, which oversees captioning for television broadcast.
Yes, that's right.
And Josh Mendelson, who is a former deaf member, community member of Massachusetts, is now the head, or one of the legal attorneys, not the head, one of the legal attorneys for the Disability Rights Office for the FCC in Washington, D.C. And I'm wondering if it might be worth having him come in and talk, or virtually speaking about captioning and how it works on all the different services and platforms and things like that.
Hey, Carl, this is Andrea. Yes, let's follow up because there probably will be at least one hearing. So when ordinances are introduced, there doesn't have to be, but there is usually a hearing on them before they're voted on. So that could be a really excellent person to invite to offer testimony at that hearing. I'll follow up.
Okay.
It's Elizabeth. I have a question.
Elizabeth? Yeah, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Yeah, thanks. Well, congratulations to all of you who, particularly Wes, but for everyone who's really been as the core group involved, as well as the board support. And this might be, given that it still needs a hearing and a vote, might be getting ahead a little bit, but I think it also might be helpful for restaurant and for the restaurants and bars to have a little bit of educational bullet points that I think it doesn't take long for people to realize, not only that this will be a regulation and inclusiveness, and frankly, even in certain restaurants and bars when they're crowded, even people who don't don't describe themselves as being hard of hearing or deaf, have difficulty hearing. But just from the point of view of community relations or business patron relations, it's not needing to justify it, but I didn't know if people thought there might be, if a little bit of education on that part might be helpful.
So
Just
Elizabeth,
to,
we're developing a whole toolkit, which is going to
terrific, sorry.
Yeah,
I missed that.
No, I didn't say it, but I probably never told the board, but we're working on a toolkit that will have instructions on how to enable captions. We're going to be working with the small business community and the city department that oversees it, the Office of Economic Inclusion and Advancement. I can't think of the name of it. But they will also be working with us to get the word out. And like you said, to spread the word about it being really a positive thing, that everybody doesn't know that they may use it, different groups of people. And we're even thinking about trying to get some sort of sticker or maybe put on the website businesses that embrace it and promote it. And so that's a great comment, and we'll keep the board updated on the toolkit.
Well, great, and that's great that you're already involved with other offices, departments that specialize in that. I think, like a lot of things, when it's new, there's sometimes some initial pushback, or some people, just because it doesn't apply to them and they might be sitting right at the counter saying, it interferes with their viewing pleasure or something. But I think, just like we found out with curb cuts for people with mobility issues, that also help, or site for people to make it easier, also with who are blind or visually impaired, but the people with strollers, wheelie bags, any number of reasons. other people find it useful as well. So even if someone hasn't used closed captioning at home, that's great that you already have that, but thanks for giving us some more information.
Yeah, this is Wes. I was just thinking a little bit about what I was going to say, and then I kind of lost my thought. But yes, thank you so much for that feedback, Elizabeth. And actually, now I remembered, there are some other cities across the U.S. that already have a caption ordinance in place. San Francisco is one of them. Seattle, Washington is another. There are several other cities around the country. So hopefully Boston can join the ranks. You know, we're a very inclusive community. We're a very inclusive city. So I can't see why this might be an issue for some people. I think you're right, providing some degree of awareness and some working group meetings with restaurant owners, I think would be a good idea to sort of think about liaising with them to give them educational information. I think that this is probably where the Commissioner's Office has been doing this work, and I'll leave that to you to continue with that work.
Yeah, that's great, and certainly Mayor Wu has also described inclusiveness. But that also is helpful that you're right about other models. And as I said, I think if there's any pushback, it would just be initially when it's set up, that I think that everyone will, people either come to enjoy it or just quote ignore it if it doesn't, just use it as it pertains to them. But for many people in that setting, it's difficult to follow the commentary anyway. So thanks again for what you're doing, and we look forward to the further updates.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Any other questions for the Commissioner on the report? All right.
What?
Then I'm going to go to the next item on our agenda. Was someone's, Dick, did you want to say
Yeah,
something?
Wes, I don't know if this is the right, I was going to bring up a new business, and I don't want to prolong the meeting, but I mentioned it now for whatever it's worth. I don't know if anybody saw the Boston.com article about the airlines mishandling wheelchairs. And so my question is that within the Commission's jurisdiction? And might it be something we're doing something about or could do something about?
Dick, I want to answer your question if I could. Commissioner, is it okay if I respond with something?
Sure.
Yeah, I actually, we talked about it with the previous executive board meeting, and this is about this particular issue. And it is interesting. I think it is of interest to this group. And we just need to figure out, we're possibly going to be bringing a presenter in from the Mass Authority. What is it, the Mass?
Massport?
Andrea, do you know, is it Mass something?
Yes, Massport is.
Yes, Massport.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
They have jurisdiction over those facilities, obviously airports and whatnot. This is an issue that they oversee, and they're planning to look at this problem. And we're actually going to be bringing them in for some kind of a presentation to talk to this issue and this issue that's occurred at the airport. Angela or Commissioner, did you have more follow-up to add to this topic?
One thing I want to add is that throughout my time in City Hall, I have done trainings at Logan Airport on interacting with people with disabilities, seating policies for people with disabilities. It's been a while now since we've done it. We also participated in a partnership with Spalding Rehab Program for kids who have autism or people who have autism who are like afraid to fly or don't know, they want to have the expectations laid out for them for going on a trip, but again, this was all pre-COVID. We do work with the airport on other issues, not as closely as we would like, because it is a whole separate government entity. But we also have broached this issue and are working with them on. And I will turn it over to Andrea to talk more about that, because she's done a lot of work.
Sorry, Commissioner, I didn't hear that last part of what you said. I apologize.
I just said we're working on this issue as part of a group that we belong to, and I know you've done a lot of work on it.
Yes,
So-
sorry. Okay, great. I just missed a little part of it. Yes. So our National Coalition of Municipal Offices for Persons with Disabilities. I shorten it so often in my head, I sometimes forget what it stands for. CMOPD. So you may recall, those of you who were on the board last year, we sent an advocacy letter to the Department of Labor and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS, to advocate for increased access to jobs and programs like Common Health here in Massachusetts that allow folks with disabilities to work while retaining their health insurance that pays for PCAs. Inspired by our success, because we were able to meet with several senior administrators, the group is now working on advocacy to the Secretary of Transportation on a number of issues, including air travel and ground transportation, in terms of access to Ubers and Lyfts and other wheelchair accessible vehicles, and airlines. So we know that the Department of Transportation has taken a few steps recently, like clarifying and issuing some more clear public guidance about rights with mobility devices. But knowing about your rights is one thing, being able to enforce them, as I'm sure you know, Dick, sometimes a whole other story. So we are working to get that memo out and hopefully have a meeting with some officials at FAA about what more stringent regulations can be put in place, more stringent reporting requirements, or fines and fees. Can the feds increase fines and fees for airlines that damage wheelchairs? In the meantime, that memo's set to go out pretty soon, and hopefully we'll have a meeting with DOT soon. But in the meantime, on the local level, yes, Commissioner Merkosh and I will be reaching out to Massport. Mostly airlines are the ones that damage wheelchairs, not airports, because, you know, it's the baggage handlers and others that might break them getting them on the plane. But since we have connections at the airport and we don't necessarily have connections at Delta, JetBlue, et cetera, we'll start with Massport. We also know they've done a few things lately to expand other kinds of access. I think Carl can maybe tell us about, there's an app for folks who are blind to pull up a camera and get directions for how to navigate the space. And it's a service that you pay for generally, but when you walk in to Massport's property and walk on to Logan, it's free to use around Logan. So we can get updates like that from Massport about wheelchairs and more. Carl, do you have anything you want to add on that IRA? Sorry, AIRA.
No, IRA is, I'm trying to think how to describe it. It's kind of like hooking up, like if you were calling your buddy on FaceTime, except in this case, these people are trained, certified interpreters of what you're seeing through your camera, so they know how to give you directions, they know how to guide you around, they know how help you know how to find things, find the men's room, the women's room. They can read menus for you. They have a dashboard on their computer about your dislikes. And they have a GPS to see where your phone is, not only where you are in your video. So it's remote video. It's kind of like an SSP for blind people in a way, except it's done over the phone, you know? So you know, even if I used it for dinner tonight when I took my frozen dinner out of the refrigerator. I needed to know what the cooking instruction was, so I called Ira, I held the phone over, and they read it to me, and then I turned on my oven. So it's a service you pay for, and the one thing Logan has done is worked out with Ira is that if you use Ira at the airport, there's no charge. So I think they're doing it so you don't rely on their staff as much, and you can rely on and move around independently by using your cell phone. I hope that explains it.
I think so, Carl. So thanks for adding that additional detail. So we will have Massport come in 2023. We haven't been able to get them, and we are scheduled in November and December. But I will also have an update on the national advocacy that we're doing. I can send the draft memo around if the board wants to consider looking at something similar.
Yeah, this is Wes. I have one simple question. With Massport, all of their employees, are they state or are they contract? Are they city contracted? Who do they work for?
Great question. Massport is one of those quasi-governmental agencies. So they are, generally speaking, independent. They're not state employees.
They are state employees. They just don't fall under the executive branch.
Yes, sorry. Thanks, Carl. They don't report to the governor. So when I think of state employees, I think, do they report to the governor? Mostly air travel is regulated by the...
So they're kind of like a contract, it's a contract service with the state.
It's just like the MBTA. They're a quasi, so Massport, think of Massport as the operation that runs Logan, but the airlines have their own employees, the luggage people are their own employees, the bag handlers, the restaurant owners, none of them work for Massport. Massport just does the maintenance and the daily operations of the airport.
Right. Okay. Wow, I learned something new. Thank you, Carl. Okay. Any other questions on this? Any new, any announcements? Do you have any announcements? Okay. Okay, old business. First item on the old business list is remote access to public meetings.
Carl, this is Andrea, still on there if you have any update. But I know that you've mentioned since January is when everything's back in session.
Yeah, this is Carl. I do know that Representative Cabral is planning on submitting the bill. He'll probably submit it sometime in November or December. And then once the new legislative session starts, it'll get assigned a docket number and then get assigned to a committee and then get a bill number. And that's probably not going to happen since this is an election year with a brand new executive branch and a brand new legislature. It probably will not happen, I would say, until March. I'm guessing now. I don't want to guess politics like Andrea does. But I will have a more update probably in our meeting in November. I'll know if the bill at least has been submitted, and I'll at least probably get to see the language by then.
Okay. Is there any other question related to Carl? It seems it's in progress, basically, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the bill did not pass in the last legislation, so because of the fact that there was a lot of pushback from a lot of the municipalities who said they did not have the capability to do remote meetings all the time with Wi-Fi, with broadband issues and things. So that has to be worked out. So the bill will be refiled this term. This legislative session.
Okay, well, I guess then that's, been an issue. The legislatures are gonna have to probably, yeah, this has been an issue, so. I saw Jerry, I think, and then Elizabeth.
Jerry, were you gonna go?
Yes, Jerry, did you have a question? This is Wes. Okay, I guess.
Hang on, here I am. I unmuted myself, thank you. Yes, I guess I just had a clarifying question. I thought the governor's executive order was extended until March next year, is that not correct?
Yes, it is, but come March, it goes away, and this is called, come March, it goes away, and then the commission meeting now this doesn't apply to us, meaning disability commissions necessarily, because we already got an exemption that we can hold it remotely, but the most commissions will have to have at least a physical presence in an accessible space somewhere, and then it's up to them. They can still have remote on top of that, but they can't have remote only. Under open meetings law. They can't have remote only.
Thank you for that clarification. And Andrea or Commissioner, is that correct that we could still we could still meet virtually if we so choose?
Yep, so you all voted last year to approve virtual participation, so y'all are set into the future. There's one of you has to be in person, and we're currently working through the legal ability for that person to be Commissioner McCosh, or if it has to be one of you appointees. But yep, regardless of the pandemic, you already had that ability, you took that vote and officially said you wanted to engage that option, so y'all are set.
Great, thank you so much.
This is called, Jerry, the reason why this is an issue though is because many members of the disability community have participated in commissions outside of disability commissions for the first time in their lives because of the ability to participate remotely, and we just want to allow that to continue.
Oh yeah, I was not saying at all that, everything's good because we have an executive order. Definitely, I want something, permanent on the books, but I am saying, it is, we do have an executive order until March, and who knows, if need be, maybe the new administration would put in another one. That's something we might have to advocate for it if and when that time comes, so.
This is Wes. For myself personally, I would love to see this happen because I think there's a huge benefit for everyone. And I think it's very critical that we make sure that this is passed in legislature. And Elizabeth, I believe you had your hand raised as well. Did you want to make a comment or question?
Yes, this is going back. Sorry for being a little out of order, but this is returning to announcements. I just wanted to alert the group that as far as announcements of upcoming events, the Riders Transportation Access Group, the RTAG, will be hosting a listening session on Thursday, November 17th from 5:30 to 7:30 regarding the last listening session was devoted to the fixed route aspect of the T accessibility issues. This returns to the paratransit, the ride, the conventional ride vehicles, as well as the Uber and Lyft program, and with a focus on safety issues and communication issues that relate to it. So I just wanted to let you know this month, and we'll forward the information. Andrea, I know I don't know if what the easiest way to access everyone is now that we have a couple of more board members. I know when things go out to you that they go out to everyone, so just what do you advise for forwarding?
If you'd like to send it to me, I can forward it out.
Okay.
When I send meeting minutes each month, I include everyone in the two lines.
Sure.
You should be able to see everyone's email and keep it if you want.
Okay. So one or the other, but
either way.
It's just, again, for your networks. And we haven't had a facilitator at RTAG for a while, and so sometimes having both the coordination of wanting to let you know both verbally for your networks as well as then the follow-up link, that I think this is a topic that touches on getting around for many people. And I think it's so having the community's input back to the staff who run that division under the MBTA, I think will be very helpful. So I just wanted to give you an early heads up about that.
Thank you for that, Elizabeth. I appreciate that. And I just want to respect everyone's time because we do have just 13 minutes left. So I do want to just keep us moving along with the agenda for the evening. So thank you again for that RTAG announcement. And I wanted to see if there was any final comments before we go on to talking about the remote access for public meetings, or any questions or concerns regarding that. Please email Carl, as he has more information, and Andrea as well. So going down to the caption ordinance, we've already mentioned that through the commission's report. She touched upon that. So now asking for new business, there is 2 items for new business. The busing for public schools and the physicians in the disability community. So I will ask, Carl had one of those new items for business.
Sorry, Charlie, I think.
Excuse the interpreter, that was Charlie. That was the interpreter's error, Charlie.
Okay.
Hi, thank you, Chair Ireland. I did want to make one comment. From previous for the Boston Police Department, there is, and I'm not, I believe it was completed. There was a deaf cadet. He was actually the valedictorian from the Horseman School for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. I don't know how long the cadet program is, but I believe he started earlier this year. And so maybe when they do come with a report that maybe he could be invited in to talk about, and just, I guess, because he will be the first, I believe, the first Boston police officer that is deaf in the history of Boston police. So I think it's a pretty big achievement there. But bringing up for the new business, and I'm not sure if people were aware and saw the Boston Globe article about transportation, specifically the article for students with disabilities. First, transportation in Boston public schools, the problems didn't happen overnight. This has been going on for many, many years. However, in the years that I've been a parent advocate, and then also through the pandemic and post-pandemic, there's been more funds and activity going into trying to resolve the transportation problem. What I want to bring to the advisory board and potentially to the commission is, can this body do something to either help or lean in to this transportation issue specifically for the students with disabilities? Because twofold. One, the students with disabilities that receive transportation, and some of you may know, it's almost 5,900 students have it written in their individual education plans. They're known as the IEP, which is also a contract that sits on top of their normal rights to transportation. And those students with disabilities range from whether it be from social, emotional, to students that have physical disabilities with wheelchairs or medical disabilities. And a lot of those students have been having significant issues not only getting picked up or denied the transportation at the site when a driver comes in. The stories are very heartbreaking, which includes the students not being able to be picked up to be brought home. And a lot of these families don't have the luxury of being able to either drive them or even they have to take off work. Some are losing their jobs, from my understanding, because they have to transport their children to school. And specifically why I'm asking this body is that I believe that with the article as it states, I believe the advocates are asking for state intervention, and I believe that there are other city commissions, including the Disability Commission, that hasn't been tapped by some of these folks within Boston Public Schools, and just wanting to see if there is anything that we can do specifically to potentially help or take action or anything of that nature. And I just wanted to ask Commissioner McCosh and also others on the advisory board what their thoughts are.
So I'd like to just turn it back to Wes to see if he has any input, and then I can talk about the work we're doing in the city.
Yes, just some brief input. The board is aware of this very serious challenge and issue that has been ongoing, and we are ready to provide our full support to help us in the best way that we are able. For now, so far, I know that Commissioner McCosh can speak a little bit more to what's been going on. So, Commissioner.
Sure, thanks, Wes. So yes, Charlie, thank you for raising this. It is a critical issue. The Boston Public Schools are having a lot of issues right now, along with a lot of other Boston departments and people in general. One of the biggest issues that we've heard from the school department is the lack of staff to actually work on the buses as bus monitors. So they are doing a lot of outreach, job fairs, recruiting. They recently waived the residency requirement for a lot of bus positions. So it is definitely an issue, and we know that the city's working on it. That being said, I think that what we can do after this meeting, because maybe it's the first time a lot of board members are hearing about it, we can go back and talk to the school department and see what ways that we could get involved to help, help with the issue and find out what the latest is on their, their current situation. Andrew, I know you had some conversations earlier. Do you want to jump in?
Sure. I don't really have anything in addition to what you've mentioned. This is definitely something that we've heard in general. We read the article too. It's not something that we've been involved in on a detailed level in the past, so definitely look to this board for guidance and direction on what next step to take. But we can, dig into, from our side, who would be the right person to, talk to at the transportation department, things like that, we can do that kind of research and due diligence, but defer to this board on recommendations for action.
This is Wes. For myself, I would like to also get in touch with the Department of Transportation because it is under their jurisdiction.
I have a follow-up question. When we talk about the Department of Transportation, because the Boston Public Schools is its own entity, the Department of Transportation, is it the city's Department of Transportation, or would you be?
Yes, the city.
Okay.
Yes,
and I think
It's actually not, Wes. It does, the public school buses don't fall under BTD. The Boston Public Schools are under the city of Boston writ large, but they have their own operations teams in every way. That's school buildings, transportation, human resources. So we can coordinate with them, but it is it's pretty much a separate government agency in a lot of ways.
This is Andrea. It's kind of like Massport, right? And so we're back to these confusing quasi-agencies. So they have their own transportation department, and that's why we'd have to do some research about who's over there, because we're not in touch with them on a daily basis.
this is Charlie again.
Okay.
I think that's why it's so important that we, as an advisory board, lean in because as a city entity, not looking into Boston Public Schools, I think that's part of a situation where having a different view and a different maybe voice would be helpful. I think one of the items too that I would, outside of the stories, is to ask and question this, not only this board, but then also the commission, about the question of civil rights for these students and families, specifically because if they are being denied transportation and the entity is actually not prioritizing based upon both IDEA, which is the where public education falls under, but then the fact that there is an additional legal contract that is written that states that the student requires transportation. It's known as door-to-door, and that's being violated. I think that's why I'm coming to this commission to ask, because it is a situation where when you deal with the public schools, in my opinion, the use of equity and equality gets kind of mixed, and the actual legal components to defend and follow the rights of these students with disabilities and families that support them get lost in the conversation.
So, Charlie, just recognizing the time, I don't want to underlie the importance of this issue. We hear you loud and clear. I think that we can take it back and do some digging. I see Wes's comment in the chat. But Andrew and I can go back and, like I said, do some digging, find out who he talked to in EPS, and circle back with the board next month with more information.
Thank you. This is Wes. And I do know we just have only about 2 minutes left here. I think we're going a little bit over time, if that's all right. I do want to talk about the physician the doctor's refusal to treat people with disabilities. So perhaps, Dick, you could speak on that. Richard.
I'm sorry, Wes, you wanted me to speak on that?
Yes, please.
Okay. And I forget where I saw it, but I think it might have been a front page Globe story about how significant number of doctors are rejecting patients with disabilities for various reasons, access being one, but not the only one. It sounded like it was a pretty significant issue, and obviously one that's very troublesome. I don't have a great idea, but maybe Commissioner McCosh does, or Andrew does, or one of the members of the advisory board does, as to how to necessarily attack that.
Yeah, I can add some
The
context.
Globe article gives us an entree. Commissioner, please.
Yeah, I can just add some context. So Dr. Lisa Iazzoni is a physician who has a disability, and she works very closely with disability organizations. I've been involved in a lot of advocacy work that she's done with the Boston Center for Independent Living. BCIL is the primary disability advocacy group in the city, and they actually work a lot with hospitals. I don't know if Zari is still on the call, but we've worked with Mass General, we've worked with BMC. Patricia Mendez in our office is working with the Architectural Access Board on accessible medical equipment. So it's a very complex issue. There are a lot of layers to it. I feel like this article, Dr. Iazzoni does a lot of research. So I think this was, again, to raise the issue. I only mean to give this context to say I don't think it's breaking news. I think that disability advocates are very much aware of it. And I can circle back with BCIL and see what, I think the impetus for this article really was the survey that came out. And, like I said, we know it's an ongoing problem, but I can certainly circle back with BCIL and get the latest updates on where they stand with the hospital.
I would like to, I know the same person that had been included in that article. I think there was a journal, a medical journal that they had been published in, I think it was last year, that showed that issue with physicians refusing to treat people with disabilities. So that's, again, as you said, that is nothing new, but I think definitely garnering that attention from being on the front page of the Boston Globe. So I'd like to, I know we could provide some more awareness to this issue, but I'm not sure what that would be. So I look to the community for that.
And Wes, can I mention, and I don't know if you read the article as I did, but I don't think it was particularly geared toward hospitals, but doctors who have private offices and practices. My impression is that hospitals do a pretty good job on access, and I don't have the sense, but others may have a much better sense of this than I, that treating people with disabilities is as big an issue there as it is with doctors in different practices who don't find it as lucrative. It takes more time to treat a patient with disabilities. They can't see as many patients as they can if they see only patients without disabilities. That was the impression I got from that article. Wes, did you hear it differently or read it differently?
Yeah, I have a little bit of a different take on it. But I do know that Elizabeth has been patiently waiting to comment, so I'm going to let Elizabeth take the floor. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
For those of you who are new, I have a background as a public health physician. I'm now mostly on disability retirement with just a little bit of work at Tufts Medical School with the students. I actually was not, had a personal situation, and so I did not see that particular article from Dr. Lisa Iazzoni, which I'll look up. But I think we ought to, Wes, table a further discussion about this issue. That they're actually, I think there might be two different surveys. One of them had to do with physician negative attitudes of physicians towards people with disabilities. And then this one sounds like it's referencing the different topic, and that makes sense to me because particularly community-based. That I think there are many examples we know from our lived experience and others we've known. And I don't know if there's I think there probably is a way that we could, at least in the city of Boston in practices, try to do something further, but perhaps as an agenda item for next meeting, or I think I'd like to read the article and think it through myself as well as others of you, but I think that's excellent that Richard's brought it to our attention.
Okay, thank you for that. I do think that perhaps the Boston City Health Commission could join us, and perhaps the Massachusetts Medical Association as well, because they perhaps have a best practices information on how to treat people with disabilities. So I do agree that we will put that on the agenda for next month. And I will make sure that Andrea sends out that article to everyone, and also the research article that I'm referencing, so that everyone can review it and be ready for our discussion. So I know we're a bit over time, but I did see Jerry had his hand up.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add, thanks, Wes, and thanks for bringing up that article. The only thing that I would add is, as the commissioner said, BCIL has been a staunch advocate around access to health, and had to do a lot of work with Mass General and BMC to make to have them make the improvements that they have. There's still a long way to go in terms of in hospitals too, as well as in more community-based practices and settings too. I'm on the board of BCIL. Dr. Iazzoni is also on the board of BCIL. She's been on the board a long time, as have I. I'd be more than happy to reach out to BCIL and Dr. Iazzoni and see if she might be willing to give some of her time to an upcoming future board meeting, or be able to give us some context for that study. That study that was in the Globe is one that she helped author. So.
That would be really great. Thank you.
The article was on October 6th in the Globe.
Yes. Yep.
This is Andrea. I'll send out links to.
Right. October 6th. And I believe there was also something on the research article was published in either by Dr. Iazzoni in either 20 or 21, 2020, 2021. It was published. I'll find out. I'll get the link and I'll share that with you. Okay, so great. Carl, wait one moment. Just checking my notes and the agenda. Now, we'll have to hold the public input because we're beyond time, but if people could email the email address, if you get something really urgent to say, then please say so, but otherwise I think it's important to just send a message via email to the email address. It's disability@boston.gov. So, Carl, do you have something that you wanted to say? Oh, Carl's not here. I don't think. All right, then. Well, I guess then I will be the one to say, I'd like to move that we close the meeting.
A second.
Okay, great. Great, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. So meeting is adjourned at 6:40. I'm very sorry that we went a bit over, folks.
Thanks, everyone.
Sorry, 7:40, that was a error.
You have a safe evening.